Rose is my nice neighbor.
There's water if you'd like a sip. Happy
you.
to share with you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Oh, please, this is the end of it right
I
here.
know this is,
Oh, this is the beginning.
we learned this from the FBI. Anyway, let me tell you what this is all about. I came here about 4 years ago, and I started, well, I always talk to people, but I just was so fascinated by all the people I met, and I had just gotten this recorder, that I started recording it. And that's what's been going on. And Rose said, you guys are neighbors, is that right?
Yeah.
Rose said, let's talk to her. She's great. So,
You've been high on my list of people to sit down and have a conversation with.
so let me introduce it, and then we can just kind of relax and fall into it. This is Jason Kolker, handshake. This is Rose Anderson Lewis.
Hello,
handshake.
Jason.
You guys handshake too. And we're
Thank you for being here, Mrs. Carly.
interviewing Miss Polly
Polly.
Anna Carly. And
Don't laugh.
That's spelled I'm trying not to. That's spelled C-A-R-L-Y. And I think today is September 24th, 2012. And we're here in the air-conditioned Marfa Public Library Theater.
Very
And,
lovely.
I'll just start by saying this. Rose told me that you are one of her favorite neighbors, and that's the beginning of it.
Most of her neighbors are gone most of the time.
Well, that definitely helps move you up the list, let me tell
I
you.
think so.
She watches out for me. She's aware of what's going on.
I'm a nosy neighbor. Yes, I want to know everything that's going on.
Are you from Marfa?
No, I've only lived here 34 years.
So you're a newcomer.
Yes, I am a newcomer.
Where'd you come from?
Came here from Brownsville.
And why on earth would you come out here?
My husband was transferred here to a better position with the Border Patrol. He was in service in Korea for a time, and then from that came back in, and I think spent a year at Brigham Young, and then from that he went on into the Border Patrol.
That was, 1978, more or less.
Possibly,
And were people as worried about illegals coming into the United States back then as they seem to be now?
My husband was the senior patrol agent in charge,
Well,
but I don't think we talked about all of this that much.
yeah.
It has become much more talked about, worried about, tried to make decisions on now than then.
So, but what did you think of Marfa when you came here 34 years ago?
Oh, I liked it. We had a hard time finding a place to live here at that time.
Well, some things remain the same. People still have a hard time finding housing, yeah.
Weren't there fewer people here?
Marfa was a small, you could call it a cow town. It was a rancher's town. They liked it the way it was. And I've had a number quoting, they didn't want all of these other people coming into town. They wanted to leave it the way it was. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what their feelings are now about how it's come along.
Well, what are your feelings about it?
Well, we need another grocery store. We need a drug store. What else? I was thinking about something else the other day. Anyway, the drugstore and the grocery store we need. And we lost the drugstore because the family who owned it and ran it were losing their business because so many of us, like me and my husband, we ordered our medications from somewhere else. And did not get them from him locally unless it was a sudden illness or something. Then we'd want to go to him and buy that. But now we go to Alpine for that, the extra prescriptions.
So you have something set up where you order things and they get
Oh, yes.
delivered to you?
Yes, Medco. And they have now joined another company, and I'm waiting to see how it's going to turn out. It's all confusing right now. Are you recording all this?
Yeah.
Oh, mercy.
See, it's just a conversation, so.
Do you remember when the drugstore was there? It was around where Maya's is now, right?
A little bit up the street from Maya's.
And I guess Donald Judd bought the Safeway? That's a story I heard. Is that right?
I don't know who owns that building now. Someone is using it. It may be Judd.
Yeah.
And then part of it has been fenced in along there. And that little bitty house that's there before you get to the main street was a woman owned it, and she sold records and things like that in that little bitty place.
Oh, like a little music store.
Yeah, and I can't remember who she was.
What happened to the town that made it lose these kind of essential bits of a city, and yet it's getting more tourists than ever?
Well, I remember my husband talking about it and saying that it was going to fade away. That's the way he felt about it a few years ago, was that it was just going to dry up and fade away. And
The tourism, you mean?
well, the artist and all of that coming. We didn't have that much tourism then. That's brought on with the art business and that stuff. It's
Yeah.
brought tourists. And Donald Judd.
Yeah. But he came in, what I've read is, I believe he came in the late 60s or early 70s.
Yes, he was here already
he,
when we
you know.
moved here.
Yeah.
And his daughter was a very good friend of my daughter,
Oh, okay.
Rainer and Claire, and then he had an older son. What is his name? Flavin. So,
So your daughter and his daughter are the same age, and they are friends.
Rainer.
Were you friendly with Mr. Judd?
No, Mr. Judd was a rather withdrawn person. And we may have talked to him once or twice. But he seemed to trust us with his daughter. She was with us a lot. And with other friends, with her other friends here in town. He and his wife were separated. I don't know whether they were divorced or not. But she lived up north somewhere. First she was here, I think, before we came. And then she was gone. And I think they got changed. He got the charge of the children, and she went her way. She cooked in a camp or in a resort or something up in the north. I never met her.
Yeah, I don't know anything about her.
When did your daughter leave town?
That sounds awful.
I don't know why does that sound so awful?
I don't know.
I mean, here's why I'm asking. I feel like I've come to this town, you know? Rose has come to this town, and so I'm curious as to why people would want to leave.
There's nothing here for young people. The artists are here. They're young people, and I wonder where they get the income to live here. I don't think they're selling that much artwork.
So did you find a place to live before you bought the house you're in now?
Where were we? We didn't live in any other house. We came very close to buying a house over on, I think it's North Highland, or no, it may not be North Highland.
That's okay. Most people don't know street names anyway, so.
I mean, we don't use street names around here.
Well, that's a story that my husband told me, was that when we got to town, we went into the motel, and he was asking the woman there, and we'd read articles or something about Marfa, and he was asking this young woman there, where was such and such a street? She said, I don't know. She said, I've lived here all my life, and we don't know street names. We know by the people who live in the different houses. And Roger thought that was so funny, and we've thought of it many times since then.
Well, where did you and Roger come from before you were here?
Brownsville.
So help me out. Brownsville is big or small? Probably pretty small.
Oh, it's not small anymore. And it was a good-sized town then. It's on the border. It's across, of course, from Mexico.
Is the landscape very different, though, here from Brownsville?
Oh, yes, of course. Brownsville has grown since those years. It's just fantastically big now. We liked Brownsville, but he had this opportunity to take this position here, and he took it. And he talked to the man who was the chief at that time here, and asked him various questions and asked him about a church. And this man rattled off the Methodist and the Baptist and the Catholic and all that. He did not mention our church at all. And so when we got here, we come through the town and around the courthouse, and here is the Christian church. And I burst into tears and started to cry. And Roger, bless his heart, he was so sweet. He said, well, if you don't like it here, we'll go home. We'll go back to Brownsville. Wasn't that generous of him?
But were they tears of joy or tears of sadness?
Well, in a sense, it was a relief that we had our own church. And I was a little bit worried about it, being away from a whole area of where I'd lived for so many years. So I think it was tearful about the whole thing. But that was so sweet of him. But anyway...
But you did like it, and you did stay.
Yeah, the people were so very friendly. And we started house hunting. And I saw this old house over there, and we looked in it, and we came up with stories about it almost immediately. People said, oh, you don't want that house? It had a bomb go off in it. Okay. And then another family, and this was a little girl who was a friend of Claire's at the school. This other girl said, don't buy that house. We want that house. And apparently they'd been dickering over it. And so we didn't know quite what to do about that, but they had a chance to buy it. They could have talked to the realtor and have bought it if they wanted to. We talked to the man who had bought it for back taxes and was ill. He was a veteran, and he wanted to move down closer to San Antonio. So we talked to him, and we worked about the prices and everything. And
Wait, is that next to you?
across the street,
from each
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so we live on the intersection of Murphy and
Yeah.
Russell,
Yeah.
which most people don't know where that is, but
Well, not by street name,
no,
but
it's one block over from Dean Street, which is Fort
Have
Davis.
you heard people say whose name your house belonged to?
Yeah,
Because Charlie remembered growing up in that house, I think.
yeah, because people always ask me, whose house was it?
well, whose house
And I
was
say, well, it was the Wynn family was their name, W-I-N-N.
The Wynns.
And I bought it from the son of the people whose home it had been.
it? So, Paul,
he was raised
you
in that
must have
house.
been friendly with the Winds for a while then.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We thought a great deal of them. Yeah. They were down at that time. Charlie, I believe it was Charlie, was the one who came and lived here for a while with his wife. And there was another son who lived in California. And I did meet him at one time or another. But Charlie was a remarkable man. He married a young woman a little younger than he, and they had twin daughters, girls. And Charlie was older, quite a bit older to be having children. But he just took part in everything those girls did. And he took them to games when they got up into their teens. He carried them to whatever ball game they wanted to go to and everything. He was just remarkable.
So did he raise those
Well, it's
girls
his mother,
here?
Nancy didn't come. His wife didn't come as much. They had an accounting business in was it Plano?
Yeah.
So anyway, she stayed. She didn't come out there very much, but Charlie came.
Oh, okay.
And
So
he
he would
brought the
just come
children.
visit and bring the girls. And, okay.
He brought them, Hannah and, can't remember the other name, Hannah. But anyway, they came with him out here.
Yeah, when I first went into my house across the street from you, looking at it before I purchased it, there was kids' artwork on the walls and that kind of thing. So
That was the two girls.
Where did you grow up?
Now you're asking questions.
well, we're curious.
Where did I grow up? Well, you could say I grew up in Texas,
Okay.
and I did.
Okay, well, let's leave it at that.
Okay. Do you want to give us a city name, or you want to leave it a mystery?
Maybe she traveled around a lot.
Yes, I did.
Was there any military involved?
No.
Okay.
No. I was born in 32. So you realize from that, that was right in the middle of the Depression. So I don't even know the whole story of that time myself. So I've been pretty open of not wanting to talk about it too much. My two sons have sort of dug it out of me little by little because they did not know some of the rest of their family at all. So I don't know what they'd think if they came up on your stories or whatever.
My mom was born a little bit before you, and she knew a little bit of Texas from coming over. And I think probably the first time she came over was in the 30s. And she told me that Texas was hit I guess that the whole country was, but Texas was hit particularly hard by the Depression.
Yes, I remember that. It was hit, I guess, years before in some areas. So,
you moved around a bit throughout Texas and
yes.
and ended up in Brownsville.
No, I ended up in Fort Worth when I was 12 years old. I ended up being raised by a couple, an older couple, who's had no children. They'd both been married before, but neither had had any children. And that seemed to be their occupation, was trying to help young women who needed a place to live. Most of them went to business school. That came along before I did. And they would come and live with them and help her with the house and go to business school. And so when I came along, I guess my status sort of changed or something. But anyway, they took me in and kept me, and my mother's strongest statement would be that she wanted me to get my education. That was a very, very important thing to her. She was a teacher many years ago, and so she was very strong on that. So anyway, I finished junior high and high school, and I went to summer school to get 1 year ahead, and then from there I went to TCU. So
you did get your education.
well, yeah, I did in a way, and then I didn't use it. That's what I told him, is that I had this, but I didn't use it.
What did you study?
My first interest was going into nursing, get a degree, an RN in nursing. And then I had I don't know how to explain it. The nicest thing that happened was that I met my first husband at TCU. He was just finishing TCU when I went there and met him.
Are we all about the same age, or?
Yes, he was a little bit older than I. He had been in the Navy, had come out, and had started in at TCU, I guess. I'm not quite sure of those dates, but yeah.
So you met him, and you were studying nursing, and he was finishing up his studies.
Yeah, he was right on the edge of getting his degree. Yep, so then we moved to Harlingen, which is just north of Brownsville.
Okay, so that's what took you to South Texas.
Yeah. That was his hometown, which he loved dearly. We are very strong on our allegiances to where we've grown up, where we live. I think a lot of people are. There are a lot of people younger than I am who have grown up here in Marfa and are still here. Of course, it's the ranching people and that kind of person, business people, I think. So you know who they are, I imagine.
I know some of the ranching people, but not a whole lot. They tend to be out on the ranches and not in town, and
Right.
so a lot of them I see, but I don't know them or know their families at all.
Well, you'd meet a lot of them in church, but you won't meet very many if you go to church with me. No, the first church I go to, I've taken up 2 churches lately.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand. Why won't we meet them if we go to church with you?
Well, you just meet people at church.
Which are the 2 that you go to?
And a lot of them are ranchers, whatever. I started to the Presbyterian church because it's 2 blocks from my house, and I can walk in my walker down there. I don't have to have a car to get there. And one of the lovely women who invited me is still going to that church, Georgia Lee Call. And so I went for meeting her, and she was very nice, and she invited me to the women's group who meets every Wednesday for lunch. We choose one restaurant after another in this fancy choice of restaurants. We've even been to the one that was a funeral home before.
to Padres?
Yeah. So anyway, Georgia Lee.
Do y'all get together on Wednesdays and go? Do you just go restaurants in Marfa, or do you go other places?
No, we haven't gone any farther away now. On Sundays,
I would imagine your options for lunch on Wednesday are probably pretty limited.
yes, they are. They rent a Mondo's last week, and I didn't go with them. Something was happening then. I can't remember what.
But you go to lunch with a group of ladies on Sundays too, don't you?
Yes, that's Georgia Lee's doing again. She will invite me to go with them, which I can because I don't have to drive. Claire won't let me drive out of town. And we've been going up to the Black Bear. You should take him up there and let him find out what it's like.
I've never eaten there.
You haven't?
No.
But I like her idea, though. You should take me up there.
Okay.
It's very nice. It's up
Do you
at
know where that is
the
in Fort Davis?
it's up at the Indian Lodge. You've been up there? Okay, it's right there. So you wouldn't have any trouble.
Yeah.
Polly, this train coming by brings up something for me.
This what?
The train.
Oh,
You've been here for 34 years. Have you ever wished that the train would just not come by?
no,
You're
Do you ever wish it would stop?
no.
Okay.
I'm accustomed to it.
Yeah.
When I first came, I used to feel that it was shaking the ground, you know. And we had one of our border patrolmen lived in a house over there right by the tracks. And it really shook. It was an adobe house. But it's never bothered me. You don't like it?
I don't mind this sound right here, but I don't understand the whistles. I know the
To warn
trains.
people to get off the tracks.
But here we have the things, the gates. So they ring and they put a barrier down so your car can't go through. The train itself is just pretty loud in and of itself. It goes in a straight line, so it's not going to like sneak around the corner and get you or something like that. I have no problem with the train. I just don't. I feel that the people who ring the bell, who do the whistle on the train, intentionally know when I'm sleeping, and I take it as a personal attack.
Oh, maybe you should move
Oh,
further
you
from the
poor
tracks.
man. Goodness me. Do you like airplanes flying over your head and coming in at all hours of the night and day?
I do not, and that's one of the reasons I'm here in Marfa.
Instead of Los Angeles.
So you traded something you disliked for something else you dislike.
Wait, I'll tell you something a bit more about this. I think that the train is, in a way, the lifeblood of this town.
Yes,
not
yes
the art.
it is.
Because the art, you put it up and people see it and then they move on, they want to see something else. But the train is constantly moving, it's constantly coming through here, it's new every day. It's, it doesn't stop for you, it doesn't care what you think of it. And so I think this is, to me, a train town and not an art town. Anyway, I can't tell you more because unless you want to interview me another time, but that's what I think.
Wow.
That's rather true, but it stops in Alpine. The what is it?
The Amtrak.
The Amtrak comes through, and it has its own personality. It never comes through, I don't think, at the same time. 2 days, 3 days in a row. It's either late or it's early or something. But that's it. But one reason why you hear that train blowing is it starts blowing way back out there. And you know why it's blowing out there? It's blowing for those little crossings to the ranches.
Oh.
They're expected to blow, so they might hear a car coming off one of those crossings or a cow or something, and it keeps them from running into anything. You're supposed to.
So we know that the train has not changed, but what about other things? Do you like Marfa more now or 34 years ago?
Well, I've always liked it. I settled in, and we had our church at that time, which is now closed, because we cannot get a minister, and our congregation faded down to almost nothing. The older people who were there to keep it going have all died, and their children have moved away, and so we just don't have a church.
But you found 2 new churches, so there's
Yeah.
no shortage of churches.
Which
No.
is the church that's faded away?
The Christian church. And one of the things here is the new age, too, is that trying to get a minister is difficult because the young ones coming out, their wives don't want to live here. They don't want to be stuck out here where there's no Walmart and no whatever. They feel that there's nothing here for them. I had 2 of the ladies, one was Pilot's wife and the other one was was the senior agent here. One of the things they did out of boredom was drive up and down the alleys checking the garbage cans. This was before we had the dumpsters. They'd check them to find out if somebody had thrown something out or left it by the garbage, if it was a piece of old furniture or something. And I would have given my eye teeth for some that these cute, wonderful little sisters that lived over here next door to the Christian church, because she put out an old record player one time by the garbage, and one of these girls found it, and oh my goodness. And that's what you'd find. Maybe you'd find a treasure if you were into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you and I have talked about this a little bit before, that we're both treasure hunters, you and I.
I was wondering today, do you have a lavatory that's cleaner than that one I've got in my bathroom?
Well, I haven't seen yours in your bathroom, but...
It's as old as I am or older.
Well, I do have, I know what you're talking, I have a collection of sinks is what
I
you're
know,
talking
that's
about.
why I'm
which I
asking
have
you.
picked up just in this way you're describing, from alleys, from the city dump. People will give them to me, so, well, we can compare sinks and see if I have a better option
Okay.
for you.
Well, I bought this one. No, the one that was in the house was so awful that I bought one from Mr. Magallanes that he had in his collection.
Another sink collector?
Yeah, he had some. He was a plumber, you know.
Well, see, it would make sense if I was a plumber, but I'm not.
Well, you better take up the... Anyway, I bought this one from him, and then this other man took hours to get it installed, and I mentioned to a very dear friend of mine, Mary Lee Harper, who lived with her sister next to the church over here, that I'd gotten that from him. And she said, "Oh, I wish you'd told me that you needed one. I could have given you a much better one." Because they'd lived in that house for years and years and had just traded one for a brand new one or something. So I saw one when I was in Dallas with this friend of ours. She had to go to this place to get
You're talking about sinks, right?
Yeah.
or lavatories, whichever.
We can delete this one.
I've been here the whole time, but I feel like I'm walking in the middle of something you guys have been talking about.
What you need to do is take the whole thing and delete it after we get through with this
Yeah,
nice
let's just take out
visit.
the sink.
So why do you two collect lavatories or sinks?
Well, I collect sinks. She collects rocks
Oh.
and glass
I
and
even bought some
ceramics.
rocks the other day.
She's quite the collector.
Of rocks, and I can no longer lift them myself, so I bought some, and then I had to have help lifting them.
I helped you move some of those
Yes,
rocks.
you did, and Christy,
And I brought you rocks
and
too from my
JP
travels.
or JR, the little boy that his father mowed the yard.
You had
Yeah.
them moving rocks for you?
Well, he took them out of the pickup and
Oh,
put them in the wheelbarrow for me. Because I have to decide where they go.
Well, you have a lovely collection of rocks.
Thank you.
And you have
Anytime.
them placed very nicely.
Thank you, and that's what I'm. Well, we've got all these young artists with the new style of wearing clothes, or not wearing them, or whatever. But I don't know that they're any. Now they don't know the custom. The young people don't, as a rule. All of the older people in this town speak. When you come run into them on the street or whatever, you speak to them. And these kids don't know about that. Some of them will. If you speak first, they'll speak. But I remember a sweetest old man that came passing by me a long time ago, and he took his hat off to me and spoke to me in Spanish. Didn't speak a word of English, and there are quite a few of them here who don't speak English. They either have the children growing up who help them or whatever.
Do you speak Spanish?
Very little. I've taken classes in it, but I don't speak Spanish. My husband was very, very good in Spanish and in French.
So he was trilingual. That's pretty impressive.
Well, my first husband was too.
And how long, just for the timeline of your life, how long were you married the first time?
13 years
13 years. And did you live most of that time
in Harlingen.
in Harlingen?
And this one now, we've been married for what? I think 40 years or 44 that we've had. And he spoke that, and Emery, my first husband, spoke very fluent Spanish because he grew up down in this country and knew Spanish very well.
In fact, you even lived in Mexico at some point
Yes,
with him.
yes,
Is that correct? How long did you live in Mexico?
Well, it was a matter of months.
Oh, okay. It was just a short.
There again, my first husband had a job as a translator for an oil company down there,
Oh, okay.
and that's how we happened to go down there.
Okay. So that was just an assignment or something he had.
Beautiful country, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But now, I don't know. It worries me. And this family that still, most of them still live down there, the father's passed away. It's scary. It gives me goosebumps to
Was this
think
a family
about it.
you knew when you were living
Yes,
there that you're
yes,
talking about?
yeah.
Okay.
And he wrote back and forth to Roger for a while and told Roger that the situation was very, very difficult down there now, and that they had been fortunate that they had these, what do you call them? They're not, they don't call them bandidos.
But the cartels.
The cartels.
Yeah, sure.
It's the cartels that really is scary, frightening to them. And Roquito and his brother own the hotel there in this little town of Coatzacoalcos. It's on a big river there in South Mexico on the Gulf side. I don't know. I don't know what's happening to them, and it worries me.
Yeah, they're going through a really hard time.
No, don't get down there now.
Well, can I ask you a political question? It seems like the Border Patrol's job now is just, it's illegal aliens, but it used to be drugs. And I wonder if the murder rate wouldn't go down if they just legalized these drugs that are
I've heard
destroying
that
Mexico.
Conversation before.
Yeah. And what do you think?
I'd hate to see it legalized. I'd hate to see anybody using them, whether they're have to pay for them or whether they would get them a lot less.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it would all happen, but I hate it. I hate drugs, and I would not. I would like very much to see it something done to stop it all. Oh goodness, there are just so many that have happened. A young couple on their honeymoon down there. They went down through. I'm not sure whether it was McAllen or farther up. They had their boat, and they went down there, exploring and what have you. And one of these Mexican speedboats came along and just fired guns at them, and killed her husband.
Oh.
And that's the way things are going down there. And I read not too long ago a woman who's been very active in the newspapers. She writes articles about these people all the time, and they don't like it. So they broke into her home and shot her, killed her in her own bathroom. And to me, that is just horrible. It's just horrible.
Do you think if something like tobacco was reversed and it was illegal, do you think that it would have the same sort of, drive to, like a black market would pop up around
I don't
tobacco?
know. I don't
it's
know.
absolutely documented as super addictive, and
I don't know
it's,
the history of that.
I just saw this
I do too.
documentary on Prohibition, and the crime during Prohibition was worse. That was the worst crime the United States has ever seen. And now, it's romanticized, and it was a long time ago, and we think of bootleggers and stuff like that. But it was just a terrible, terrible time to try to be an average citizen. Everyone you knew was breaking the law by drinking, and then everyone you knew was involved in this violence of people trying to sell, alcohol.
That's true. It's true, but this is worse. What is it doing to people in our country who get hooked on this stuff?
Oh, I don't. To me, getting hooked on this stuff is much. I mean, as bad as that is, it doesn't compare to someone coming and shooting you in the bathroom.
Well, that's what these people will do. They will stop at nothing.
Yeah, but they wouldn't if it was legal. If they didn't have a profit motive.
Oh,
yeah, it's a business. It's supply and demand. If there was not a
whatever,
Well, this conversation can go in a lot of different directions. I mean, the government goes to other countries and we're killing people for
I
what?
know,
Because we have
it's
different
shameful.
religious beliefs.
But let's go, Rose. Let's go 10 or 15 more minutes.
Okay.
And I'd like just to get some of the basic stuff. Like the Marfa stuff.
Yeah, let's focus a little more on Marfa. Yeah.
Okay, can I start with one?
Please.
Given that this is an art place, what kind of art do you like?
Well, I've never been into abstract art at all. If you come into my house, you'll see that I have not.
What kind of art do you surround yourself with?
Beautiful, beautiful art.
Beautiful
I'm
art.
trying to remember, what did I see? I go through so many magazines, and even sometimes you see something interesting in a wish book, but it's in some museum now, a Russian painter, and some of his work has just come to light. But one of them is a painting of a group of musicians. They're carrying their fiddles, their violins, and some other things I don't remember. I remember the violins the most because that was mine that I did in school. But it's just so beautiful the way that was painted. And this man's name was, I think, Gerard, the painter.
So you like more traditional, styles
Yes.
of painting and art?
Yes.
But I mentioned earlier that you collect glass and ceramics, so those are, that's
Pottery.
considered art.
Pottery, oh yes, I love my pottery, and cut glass is an art.
In, say, the 70s and the 80s, when you were living here and you had children, that were in school and living in Marfa, and Donald Judd was here and he was making art. Did you ever see the work that he was doing, or have any real kind of awareness of what his work was?
Well, he lived, this is what I was told now, that when his wife was here, they lived up on the hill over there somewhere. That's totally changed now. I have no idea where they lived up there.
I don't know.
And then he built this place down here by where Safeway used to be that's called the Block. I believe it's the Block, where he built the big wall all around it. And
Across from Godbold and...
have you been inside when they
I have
had
not.
open house or something?
I have.
Well, they have a house in there where they lived. The kids, I think, slept on the floor, sleeping bags, and their lives were sort of different from ours in a way. But he had quite a collection of stuff. I don't know what it was exactly in his kitchen, and that got around to people all the way to El Paso who wrote and asked him if they could come and cook in his kitchen. Now, I don't know what all was in that kitchen.
Maybe he had really good pots and pans. I don't know.
That's what I say. But he was a quiet man, and the place it's up toward Chinati, but it's across this way. It looks like a place for horses. He used to he'd give parties out there, and he had all of his minimalist furniture in there that was straight up and down.
The arena?
Arena. And he had one big thing out there, and they'd have big cheeses and all kinds of stuff to eat out there. And then he had a big bonfire going outside, and everybody went out there and sat around it and talked. And I looked up and I could see him standing out of the circle, off to one side, listening or watching or something. But that was all I saw of him. He just sort of disappeared after that. So he had different ladies come and cook. They'd cook stuff, and he hurt one lady's feelings because she was a Mexican woman, and maybe he didn't hurt her feelings. Maybe it was the one that came to cook. Someone that was supposed to be very well known came to cook.
Oh.
And then she snubbed this woman, this dear sweet woman that I think so much of. She snubbed her, which was very awful here in this country for that to happen. You just don't do that.
Do you know who it was, or was it?
No, I don't remember
Right.
it. This lady told me about it later.
Right. Huh.
So her feelings had been hurt.
But he'd invited someone had invited herself to come and cook outdoors or something or other. And
I have a question.
Yeah. How about it?
Your husband is or was a border patrol agent, and I'm just curious, was it a strict household that you guys ran, with the kids and so forth?
no,
Say
you're-
yes, ma'am, and yes, sir.
Yeah, did they say
and-
yes, ma'am? Were you mom or were you ma'am?
well, that brings up another story.
You're good at dodging questions,
Well, this involves Roger as well as I had the two children. The two boys are from their first marriage,
So you have how many children altogether?
3,
3, and 2 from the first marriage, and then
and my beautiful darling daughter from Roger. These boys were very talkative. They talked with everybody about everything and should have been quiet when they weren't. And Roger was just amazed at them. The fact that they would join in the senior people talking. He was raised now, that's how he was raised by an Italian family, was that he did not enter in the conversations and that sort of thing. And he was amazed at Paul and Scott joining in and talking up a storm about anything and everything at the table wherever they wanted to talk. But I think he got used to them after a while. So he tried to raise them. He said one time to me, he said, we'd been married a year, he said, I thought I knew a lot, but now I know I don't know anything. The 3 of us were always running to him with one question or another, and so the 3 of us, yes, there were 3 of us, Paul, Scott, and me. So anyway, but he was a very good father with them. He did his best. He took them hunting, and they have their own guns still today. And I heard a man at the table down at the senior citizen lunch today. I heard a man was talking to another woman, and I'm always listening to whatever I can hear. He said he had never fired a gun. And I thought, my gosh, how sad. Never done that. And what he was upset about was that we had a fairly young man come, and he was quite loud, and he had a very loud laugh. And it upset this man next to me about him being so loud, a loud laugh. And he was pretty loud, but my first husband was that sort of person. Extrovert is what I was trying to think of.
Oh, okay.
And he had a laugh that people would turn around and look at him, And so this young man was louder. I have to admit, he was louder than my first husband ever was. But he came in to call bingo for us. And he was loud. You could hear him all over and laugh. And this man and one woman were just, she said, "Oh, I've got this terrible headache. He's giving me a headache." He's laughing loud so much.
So, but you found it really sad to hear this man say he'd never shot a gun before.
Right.
What to
Have you
use-
ever shot a gun?
No.
Oh my gosh, have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
you must
okay,
have.
let's start. Let me investigate. You haven't. You have. When was the last time you shot a gun?
Good question.
When I went out to target range with Roger to shoot clay pigeons or whatever you call them.
40 years ago. 30.
Yeah, pretty much a long time ago. And I hit the first, and I quit after that with a shotgun.
So what is my good friend Rose missing here by never having shot a gun?
Well, I don't know. It's target. It's feeling that you've accomplished something in a way, if you can hit a target. And then, of course, the whole principle of guns was coming back to our heritage is when they used them to shoot the game to live on. You know, that's when it came back. Of course, it was for fighting too. But they use those, and that's what they use them for today.
Rose, why have you never shot a gun?
I just didn't grow up in a household where we had guns or where guns were valued or appreciated or
Well, I guess
I didn't
there are
grow
a
up
lot of
around
people
guns.
in this world who are that way.
Maybe your neighbor Polly will be kind enough to take you blasting someday.
Do you own guns? Do you have guns of your own?
Yeah, they're all locked up. Can't get to them. They're really not mine, they're the children's. And I have one in my dresser drawer, a handgun, so don't ever try my door at the wrong time or anything.
Interview you without asking first. Hold on just a sec.
Gosh,
Okay, I want to know, these are my questions now. What were you thinking when Rose moved in, when you got this new neighbor?
well, no, I won't tell that.
Oh, yes,
Please,
that's
be
why
honest.
we're here.
There was some gossip, but I'm not going to repeat it to him.
Oh, I haven't heard the gossip.
I'm not going to say anything about
I
that.
can't hear a word. You can repeat it now.
It's not bad, it's not, but it's gossip, because I don't know whether there's any foundation to it or not.
Well, you tell me and I'll tell you if there's any truth to it.
I have a friend who is a minister's wife. Bless his heart, the man he has cancer somehow wound around his brain, and he's just struggling to stay alive. And I love him dearly. I love his wife, but she is a trial. And she told me earlier on when I first met her, she likes to tell gossip or stories and let it go around. It makes it more exciting.
That lady said that about me?
Oh, no,
Oh,
she
you're
doesn't know
confusing.
you.
So no, but so
Yeah, so what are we talking about?
Well, so we're talking. Okay, we started. She was explaining, I think, why she doesn't want to repeat gossip.
Oh, I see.
But I want to know because it's about you
I
specifically.
want to know too.
So
Well, no, it just brought on it. I don't know which came first. I think it was about Patricia, because that's what she does. She says, is we'll tell something and away it goes. Did you ever, I'm sure you're too young for it, but there was a picture of who was the painter who drew the pictures for the Saturday Evening Post?
Norman Rockwell.
Yes. He drew a picture one time of a scene of two women talking or whispering to each other. And then he drew the next picture, one of those, telling someone else, telling someone else, and someone else, and someone else. And so it comes back to the one who told the other one in confidence or whatever. But it comes back, and it is not the same
not the
story
same
at
story.
all.
Sure.
Every person gets a different impression of things, and sometimes they're not true at all.
It's a small town. We don't have a movie theater, so people talk. I
Well,
don't think that's such a bad thing.
just like, since my daughter lives in Maryland, she has a tattletale in this town who every time that woman finds out, I don't know, maybe it's a man, every time something goes on that this person hears about or supposedly sees, she calls Claire and tells her.
Something about you.
Yes. Yes.
That's good. She's keeping tabs on her mom. She's
Yeah, I had a bang up wreck with an 18-wheeler not too long ago.
well. We're waiting. Come on.
Well, that's what the tattler
How-
told Claire.
Oh, that didn't really happen.
No,
Oh.
it did not happen. No such thing.
I see. I think I saw that accident that you were in. When did
Yeah.
when did you first realize that Rose was someone you could be friends with? That your neighbor was someone.
Well, I guess the first time I met her, I liked her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What if the first thing you'd heard about Rose was that she had never shot a gun? Would that?
She told me.
No.
But before you ever met me, if you had
Before you ever
heard that
met
about
her,
me.
would that have changed?
No, I wasn't. That had nothing to do with it. I've never asked you if you fired a gun or not.
No, but I'm saying hypothetically, if before you met Rose, you found out, well, you have this new neighbor, and the only thing you knew about her was she had never shot a gun, would you thought, well, that's kind of sad?
Well, what would have been more interesting if someone moved in over there who was very good at shooting guns and would come out and shoot a bird out of a tree or something like that.
Nope. No
She's
such
very
luck.
quiet. She has her, you know her sweet little dog, don't you?
Queenie.
Where is she today? Why didn't
She's
she?
at home. She's not really
She
cut
doesn't-
out for interviews.
She doesn't speak English very well.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought she did very well.
You want to wrap it up for now?
Sure.
Okay. A pleasure to meet you. And anytime you want to do part 2, I want to.
Part two.
I want to hear these rumors you've